all time, obviously. Dr. Jordan Peterson, along with a guy talking about UFOs. What you didn't know about UFOs. Jordan Peterson getting into the supernatural lately. He always looks so moist. Whatever he does with his hair makes him look like a moist person. Maybe he's just sweaty.
You're obviously studying anomalous phenomena.
Dr. Gary Nolan. I don't think that's Gary. There's 2 R's there. And I know the English language. It's Gary. Everyone pronounce it right.
Why would you make or have you even derived the inference that apart from the isotopes, why would you derive the conclusion that extraterrestrial origin is the most likely?
No, I never said that.
Culprit? Or
no.
Okay, fine, fair enough. You didn't, and so that's exactly why I'm posing the question. I'm not trying to corner you with that. I want to know.
What a tense situation we've stepped into. What's happening? I never said that. All right, he's AI. Is this a Turing test for Jordan to see if he can wiggle his way out of it?
Like you're studying anomalous phenomena. You know of Charles Fort, by the way?
Very well, yeah.
Yes, okay, yeah. Did you ever watch Magnolia?
No.
The movie?
No.
Oh, Magnolia is
I like how Jordan Peterson's like, did you know this guy? And he was like, yeah, very well. And he goes, okay. Because what he wanted to do was tell him something he didn't know. So now he's talking about Magnolia as well.
Great movie, by the way, and it's about Charles. It has a sub-theme of Charles Fort. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in Charles Fort, Magnolia is very much worth watching. It's a great movie, also beautifully put together musically. And of course, Charles Fort studied anomalous phenomena his whole life, and Magnolia happens to be about that. But okay, so you're studying anomalies. Lay out the realm of hypotheses, because there's military experimentation. I mean, there's all sorts of obvious competing hypotheses. So tell me what you did, what you've gone through, more about your foundation and what you've concluded.
Jordan Peterson, this is just what I'm gleaning from experiencing him, is a terrible interviewer, a terrible person to have a conversation with. Just not a good time. And I don't like his suits, I'll say it. I'm brave enough to say I don't think they're good. I think they're just a clown suit. It's an insidious version of Bill Nye's tie, where Bill Nye is just trying to be engaging and fun. He's trying to do the same thing, for kids to be like, hey, science is cool. And he's just, he's like talking to kids. He does the same thing for grown-ass men. Like, this is like a red clown nose to go honk, 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 honk. But instead of that, it's sort of this like, if you just follow the directions, you can perform manhood and navigate capitalism and right-wingedness just right. You can be the Dr. Jordan Peterson. But it's not whimsical. Yeah. If it was whimsical, remember that guy that used to, the infomercials, he was like, get your free money or whatever. And it was like, he had question marks all over him or whatever. Pretty sure. Or maybe it was dollar signs. That guy too. I'm confusing him with the Riddler. It's the same shit.
So the principal reason for starting the Soul Foundation was that I was, because of, let's say, my public persona about this, more and more scientists were coming to me and saying, hey, I want to help. How can I do it? And then a common friend of Peter Skafish and I, along with David Grush.
Look, I knew it was a Jordan B. Peterson clip, but this is a weird place to cut it. There's like no context for anything that we're going into. I guess we just have to have already known this fucking guy,
who I had met through all of these events. And David, again, was the guy who sat in front of Congress and testified about the alleged reverse engineering programs of which he was aware. And I'd met with Dave and spoken with him, very deeply, and watched every element of his body language as I possibly could.
Oh, okay.
To see, look for evidence of misconstruing him in some way. And as far as I could tell, he's telling, at least as far as he's concerned, the truth.
Oh, this guy thinks that the UFO claim guy is telling the truth, so that's it.
About what he knows. And I said, okay, well,
are there lenses in those glasses?
We need a more
They're fucking perfect. If not, they shine them fuckers. There's not a glare in them.
formalized way to approach this.
I think there's.
And so what do you do as a scientist in a new area? You start a society, more or less, or you start a foundation that becomes the lead foundation for other groups to come together. And the Soul Foundation pretty much has established itself as a nonpartisan umbrella group through which the many individuals who are interested in UAP and talking about it, in a professional manner, can come together. And our next event is going to be historic. It's going to be in Italy. And we've got people from the European Parliament. We've got a number of former, let's say, U.S. officials who will be there to talk about.
Former, let's say, U.S. officials? What the fuck's that supposed to mean?
These matters. And again, I don't expect a revelation. I expect just from this people to come and know that there's a place where they won't be laughed at.
Oh, the UFO guys don't want to be laughed at. Well, you don't have to be. You can do research on stuff, but it's just like how wacky you're all about it. It's the wacky stuff. I don't care if you go look at the sky. Fucking do it. I'm pretty against the anti-science stuff that comes out of this crowd, though.
But they can share, maybe give ideas. And one of the sets of ideas of what's going on right now is there's a big movement for what's called the UAP Disclosure Act. That, for your listeners, for the last 2 years, Senator Rounds and Senator Schumer, supported by multiple representatives on both sides of the aisle, have put forward a part of the bill that goes into the Defense Department bill, 60 pages of which talks about the reverse engineering programs and extraterrestrial, or not even extraterrestrial, non-human intelligence. And that for, the next 5 to 10 years, there will be an oversight group which will collect and gather all of this information for potential benefit of humanity. Now,
I think it's funny that this is where Chuck Schumer's attention gets put sometimes. How about we go looking for UFOs after we just give people health care?
You just asked me about ruining my career. Would Senator Schumer, the head of the Democratic Party, and Senator Rounds, an important figure on the Republican side, come out and make any of these kinds of statements or allow for their offices to be the vehicles through which such a bill would manifest itself if they felt that they were going to be derided on the floor of the Senate? Probably not.
Well, yeah, the Republicans are in control and they're doing wacky shit all the time. I don't know.
And so there's Marco Rubio has come out openly and
good. And you can trust people like Chuck Schumer and Marco Rubio for having good ideas. These are notable men.
Talked about this. He's now our Secretary of State. There's 20 minutes of part of a film that he's in where he's openly talking about the fact that there are these objects moving in ways that we don't know. I was speaking with your producer prior to your getting to the set. The Soul Foundation, one of our purposes, we put together press kits of 15 different snippets from former heads of the CIA, the DIA, NSA, President Obama, et cetera, all saying there's something that we don't understand and is moving in ways in our atmosphere that we can't explain. And it appears to be technology.
Famously trustworthy heads of the CIA. Yeah, I mean, I understand why this guy might be impressed by that. We've mythologized the government and the stuff that happens there. Tom Clancy has done a disservice, I think, with his work. There's sort of this mysticism to it where they're just the government, the CIA, You could just go work for the CIA. Like, yeah, you have to make it in or whatever, but like, guys just go do that. You can go work for the FBI. I have friends who've gotten clearance to go do stuff.
Now, they'd like you to think that it's some thing out of Lockheed, perhaps. But, you know, these things were being seen before Lockheed existed, right? They were seen in World War II. They were seen subsequent to World War II, long before we had any capabilities. So what is it? I don't care. I don't care if it's human or not. I just want to have reproducible findings. And yet somehow, for some reason, the government won't release the information that it has. I mean, just recently, there was a Freedom of Information Act release of the so-called Mosul orb. And
Does this guy care about the Epstein files, for the record? I'm just asking. Or is he caught up in his UFO business?
Mosul, Mosul, Iraq. A solid silver ball. That arrow, which is the Anomaly Resolution Office of the Department of Defense, came up and said, yeah, we see lots of these things. The former assistant director of ARROW, which is the office programmed and set up by the DoD to collect the kind of information around these anomalies, openly stated just 3 weeks ago on a podcast that, yeah, we have videos of these black triangles that move in ways that we don't understand.
He keeps saying that, like, guys have said it. That'd be sweet if we had some evidence. What happens if it's like aliens, though? Let's game it out. The aliens are here, okay? They're out here and they're looking at us, and they've just been looking at us for 100 years. So we're like in a zoo, Tralfamadorians, Slaughterhouse-5 stuff. I think it'd be good for an alien to come here, no matter what, because I think human beings around the world could use some kind of reminder that we're of the universe and other stuff is out here. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think we're just too far away and the time is too weird. Like, it takes too much time to move in between things. I think we're, sadly, the only intelligent life we're ever going to interact with is other humans, and that fucking sucks because we're not very intelligent. Yeah, I'm not going to anthropomorphize the alien life form that's able to cross galaxies to get here. They didn't bring with them the means to subjugate us the way that Columbus would have. I would be surprised. I think the aliens are here to colonize us fantasy as a human enterprise. I don't think anything coming this far, unless it's a lot of them all at once, which could be the case. But, I mean, obviously, you'd notice. You wouldn't be like, what's happening? There's no real reason to. Yeah, there's nothing here. Like, it's always, in all the stories, it's like, our world is uniquely watered or something. And it's like, not really, probably. I guarantee you that's not the case. Of all the places in the galaxy, we're the one with what? That's not it. Hydrogen and oxygen, that's all over the place. You can get every resource on Earth and space, ice, comets, water. Yeah, absolutely. They're all over the place. So there's no reason to come here unless you're just exploring. And I also don't think it's possible, but it's not probable. The Fermi paradox is too strong. And it's also just true, right? Like, we live on time scales of billions of years. Not we live, but like existence is existing for billions of years. This Earth has gone through, 7 extinction events. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of the planet, basically, and learn stuff about it in the last 100 years. And even then, like, look, we still have this shit going on, you know? We can't even fucking organize ourselves to have good lives for people. It's taken 3.8 billion years to get from cells to civilization, which is 1/3 of the age of the universe. And do we think that was stunted, though? Because billions of years ago, you have all sorts of different creatures. Or I guess millions of years ago, but even so. Like, are we the first actual, like, you'd need a data set. You would need to see the other timescales for other planets to know if we're even in a sweet spot, but you'd know if you're in a sweet spot because you would have found that information already. We'd have to get archaeological evidence from at least 3 or 4 different real planets with life on it to know. But you have, like, so, I mean, not happening.
Okay, if it's our technology and we can move in ways like that, why are planes still crashing at Reagan Airport, right? Why are we letting airplanes use fuel when we have some other kind of technology that can move the way that these things can?
Well, there's two answers to that. Number one, we don't, obviously. Number two is it's not using some kind of other fuel, or it's too rare.
And it's being kept a secret. Is that just for defense?
So you talked about black triangles and silver orbs. Can you go into a little bit more detail?
Money, by the way. Yeah, frankly, okay, yeah, that's also true, Arena Redhead. If there was a renewable resource of energy, certainly the capitalists wouldn't want us to have it. Like, if you can't make money off of it, I mean, what's the point? Pretty sure that the Chinese are going to start cold fusion pretty soon, though.
Like what? I'd like to know the central phenomena. Where do you think most of the signal resides with regard to these anomalous sightings? What's the pattern?
The best pattern are what it is that the military sees. And those are the ones that where I have a focus and where actually I'm involved with another group that's funded privately called Skywatcher. And what we're doing is we've been setting up sensor systems in what we call cleared areas where we know that there's no overflight. And we do sometimes work in concert with the FAA and others to make sure where we're setting up for repeatable measurements and sensor systems to see things. And we're seeing stuff that doesn't make sense. And so we're not coming to conclusions, but we're collecting the data. And because I'm a scientist, I'm like their principal advisor to this group. And we're setting up and doing the kinds of measurements that I think are necessary because I'm not going to wait for the government. I'm not going to wait for daddy government to tell me what's right. I'm a scientist. I'm going to go out and do it myself.
Got to throw a bone to the Petersonian crowd. I mean, I guess daddy government shouldn't be telling you where to do your science.
And so that's what we've done. And we've raised significant funds. I mean, and you can go look up Skywatcher on the internet and what it is that we're doing. And part of what we're doing is it's two purposes. One, it's basically aerial surveillance, partially just for drones, because we've seen what drones can do in wars. So, and you know about the drone incidents in New Jersey, right? And all of the hubbub that caused. Well, we were actually there. We were actually measuring things.
What was that?
Some of them were simply drones. Some of them, though, were moving in ways that would be hard to explain by drones. But all the stuff that we observed close to shore was clearly human activity. But so we're setting up Skywatcher as sort of a dual purpose.
It's gonna keep being that shit, man.
One is to work with the government to hopefully, or defense contractors, or anybody who wants to pay for our services, to collect aerial data basically as rapidly as possible. Because often you can't deploy the necessary equipment on site quickly enough to collect the data when there's an anomaly that shows up. I mean, our principal goal is protection of the United States. But if
oh my God,
in so doing, we happen to collect other information about some, let's say, anomalous objects.
Dude, hiding it as defense, I don't even know. Maybe we should go into the defense grift chat. There's so much money to be had if you're just like, yeah, we're defending America. They'll just give you stuff. He definitely wants sweet defense money, yeah. Because that's, I mean, where's that?
We will have the tracking data necessary to say, hey, well, we don't understand this. And it's important to know because if it isn't a human adversary who have capabilities that we don't appreciate, even if somewhere in Area 51 they have...
Of course, they're an adversary.
Something that does that. It's good for, I think, our military, the more public aspect of our military, to know that these objects do exist and report them when you see it. Because it might be the Chinese or the Russians or the...
No, not the Chinese or the Russians. In our air. We're never going to get off this fucking rock.
Iranians, right? You want to know this because if you ignore it, you could be ignoring the data point off the line that is important to know about. Always back to that. Don't ignore the anomalies because anomalies, just about every single Nobel Prize that was ever awarded in physics and chemistry or biology is because somebody paid attention to the anomaly.
Right. Yes.
Sounds like something Jordan would have eaten up. Every major discovery was just it was anomalous until it wasn't. I don't know if that's accurate. Usually it's like, oh, we proved this because it's not anomalous. It's aggregate data that is reliable and retestable. Like, not an anomaly.
So, tell me about the patterns of anomalous activity that characterize, that define something as an unidentified aerial phenomena, and then tell me what you've concluded as a consequence of your investigations, and where you... Yeah, let's do that.
So he's so bad. Yeah. Let's go. Let's do that. Is he just here? Is Jordan Peterson obligated to show up now that he's a Daily Wire employee? And so he doesn't. He's just sort of like, Now he's in the content making space and he doesn't know? He doesn't really know how?
So there are, let's say, 5 characteristics of something that you would think of as an anomaly. One is instantaneous acceleration and deceleration. Right? There's very few things that we know of that can go from 0 to 5,000 miles an hour and then stop on a dime without squishing everybody on the inside, sending them through the windshield. So when you
unmanned
see these things go from, in the case of the, I think it was the Nimitz or the Eisenhower, it goes from sea level to space in less than a second, and they have the radar trackings of those things. And now imagine the size of the object. Let's say it weighs a ton. To instantaneously accelerate and decelerate at that level, it takes more than
I'd like to see that footage.
Would take the energy of more than the nuclear output of the United States for a year. Okay, so where did you get that energy, first of all? So instantaneous acceleration and deceleration. So seeing things that do zigzags across the sky means that somebody or something has control if it's going fast enough, and it's not doing an arc. It means something has control of momentum and inertia. They can negate momentum and inertia. So that's an observation seen hundreds, if not thousands of times by pilots all over the world. So what does that
Okay, so let's see it.
mean about our understanding of physics, first of all? So that's one thing. The other is no apparent flight surfaces and no apparent exhaust. So no energy output. So you're moving and doing these things, and yet if you look at them with FLIR, which is a kind of infrared, you don't see any hot spots.
I just don't know, man. It doesn't sound like what you're seeing is true. We don't seem to have evidence for this. And sailors saw mermaids. Probably just a combination of drunkenness, scurvy, and, manatees. Not womanatees. Manatees. Pretty gay, if you ask me.
If you were to look at a jet, all you would see is the plume from the jet. So no flight surfaces, meaning, basically Bernoulli's principle is not at play here, right? Which is basically how the wings work and lift. So Bernoulli's principle is not at play. So
it's definitely at play, but like you don't have to succeed in creating lift for Bernoulli's principle to be like in effect or whatever. I think most of these things are interesting and cool, and also probably not real. Our imperfect human brains cannot simply comprehend something that we know. Just because there's no visible energy output doesn't mean there isn't one. Yeah, I mean, he's making a lot of leaps. It's whatever. I'm trying to steel man the what if you see a UFO. I mean, it just really seems like always they are human-made, and mostly we're probably misinterpreting what we're seeing.
Or you're moving without a flight surface and without an apparent mode of...
Because every time you see them, they're like... it's through some fucking like screen, and then there's like the little thing trying to track it, and they're like, I don't know, and then they, the footage is always fucky. Why is it always fucky? We have amazing instruments
of inertia. You're not putting something out so that you can move forward. And then the other one is what you would think of as what's called transmedium travel, meaning something that can go from the water to the air and then back again, or to the air and to space. We have nothing that can do something like that. Recently, there have now been drones made and talked about openly, and actually these are U.S. Drones, just shown on I saw on a military video recently, where drones can be underwater, travel, and then come out of the water and go do the attack. But
that's crazy, by the way.
It's only been developed in the last few years, not something from 50, 60 years ago. So those are the kinds of things that people see. And again, it's you ask me what I think of as real. Those anecdotes are to me stories, and why I get interested in the medical or the material side is it's something I can repeat. I can't repeat these pilot observations, but I can repeat experiments on materials or experiments on humans, but reading the humans who've been harmed. Now, the thing about Skywatcher is that we, at least in
waterproof drone can fly and swim using the same 4 propellers. It's aliens. It's aliens. Is that foam? Whoa. Search and rescue missions or engineering inspections of bridges and tunnels. It's going to be used to kill people.
In a limited sense, have a signal that can be released that sometimes it seems to attract these objects. And so that's where the repeatability attempt is coming in.
Explain that a bit more.
So there's a because it's a company and I'm not the official spokesperson for it. And this is public information that's out there, is that there's a signal that an individual as part of Skywatcher had determined when he was working with the military, not as it wasn't his purpose to develop it, so he didn't take anything out. It was sort of he noticed something, and then he refined the technique, and now he knows that he has, let's say, an electromagnetic sequence that he can release that somehow seems to have these objects show up. And I was there when it happened. We go out on these week-long events in like the middle of nowhere, and stuff shows up. And
and stuff shows up. Can I see some footage? Every time I see UFO footage, it's always like shitty.
Some of it's...
Is there anything fun? I don't know, man. If you're not having any fun ever, I think it's a reflection on you. There's some fun stuff going on in life.
Some of it's, you can go find it on Twitter. But the stuff that's on Twitter isn't good enough, in my opinion. I'm more interested in the data that we're more recently collecting with better cameras and better sensor systems. Because the idea is just to do the science.
So I think what we'll do on the Daily Wire side, because we have to wrap this up in relatively short order, I want to close here by asking you what you've concluded provisionally as an explanation for this, like what hypothesis you're nursing. And then on the Daily Wire side, for everybody watching and listening, I'd like to ask you more about stories about what you've seen, for example, when you've been on these Skywatch expeditions and what the Skywatch program is reporting. And then...
Yeah, you got to allow yourself some whimsy. Go. Sounds like they're doing mushrooms in Brokeback Mountain. Whoa. I don't think they're doing enough mushrooms. I'm frankly a little underwhelmed by this.
Also, to delve a bit more into the political, you talked about the Schumer and I don't remember the other senator.
Senator Rounds,
this bipartisan proposal to declassify and make public
some of the information.
The narratives of sightings from pilots in particular. Okay, so we'll delve into that more on the Daily Wire side for everybody watching and listening, so you can join us there for an additional half an hour. To close up here, I think it would be useful for you to let us know, if you would, what the hell you think is going on, and what this has done to you too. This has got to kind of come out of left field, so to speak.
What's going on?
In a severe way, and so I imagine it's put a bit of a bump into your life.
I like that at the end of this, Jordan Peterson's question is, "What's going on?"
Maybe one that's mostly interesting, but still, it's to call it strange is to barely scrape the surface. Yeah. So, what do you make of this?
That there's something non-human here, and it's been here for a long time. Is my provisional conclusion.
My provisional conclusion. I love how he likes to say, these guys don't want to be called wacky, but like you ask them about their other belief systems, and they're like, "Yeah, I believe, in the Shroud of Turin. I believe in the fucking Spirit of Destiny." I've never met like a material, like an atheist that believes in reality that is like, and also fully on board with the alien stuff. Most of the time it's like, aliens would be cool, but I haven't seen evidence for it, Aliens are cool. I would like to see evidence though. Do you think the Christians would just call them demons? Has Jordan lost connection to his ship? Is he trying to get back home? That would be incredible. The bad part about Jordan Peterson being he's an alien is that I'd be really disappointed that, like, given another crack at like self-aware, like sapience, like we were saying, like intelligence, nature did no better with the aliens. They just popped out of Jordan Peterson. Michael Knowles thinks aliens are demons. If we could simply get out from underneath the perspective that everything is here for us, we might be able to do something with this place, this whole planet we got. We simply decentered ourselves a little bit. We're probably not capable though.